Hi, I'm Al Spry. Welcome to the American Roundtable.
And I'm Ken Mikesell, and welcome. And we want to thank Tough TV for carrying this program. They want you to be informed as to what's taking place in our country today.
That is absolutely correct, Ken Mikesell. You are a psychic, my friend, and a astute political man. And so we're going to talk about some fun things on today's show. This is our new format. It's 30 minutes in length. First of all, we have Obama and guns, also something about North Korea causing trouble again. They always do that every so often just to stay in the papers, as they say. And of course, Americans, we're going to talk about the way they're struggling with a paycheck as well. We have a lot to cover, including the political race for the GOP and, of course, the Democrats as well. So there's a lot to cover.
That's right. And we'll be back right after this short break and give you more information that you need to know.
Hi, welcome back to American Roundtable on Tough TV. I'm Al Spry.
And I'm Ken Mikesell.
Ken, we'll start off with Obama and guns. Let's talk about the latest in this. It seems like we're always hearing about Obama and guns.
Well, it's been something that in his 8 years as president, he promised to make some changes, and I guess now that he's in his last year, he's really anxious to get this done. But you have to go back and look at the Second Amendment. You think about our founders of the Constitution. Back in their time, guns were so critical to protecting themselves. And I think the big question, Al, that many people have today, is it any different today?
I think it's more important to preserve gun rights than ever before. And I believe that the president is waging a campaign for an agenda which is nothing less, and I'm not being dramatic, of taking guns away from everybody. Now, I say this based on the fact that once you start chipping away at a liberty, like has been done with the Fourth Amendment, which no longer really exists except on paper, I think once you lose these rights, you don't get them back. I think the Second Amendment was put in the Constitution for a reason. The Second Amendment protects the First Amendment. So that's why it's number 2 and it's not number 8, 9, or 10.
That's right.
Because if the people are left without arms, no matter what a politician tells you, that it's common sense gun legislation, that it makes sense, that we don't want to take anyone's guns away, always remember that these things are done in stages. Let's look at smoking. First, smoking was just in a different section of the restaurant, but we'll let you smoke. Then they said, well, it has to be a closed-off section of the restaurant. Then they said you can't smoke in the restaurant at all. Then they said because of you're outside and there's something outside and someone might get a whiff of some type of odor of smoke, now you can't smoke, especially in a city like New York City, anywhere in New York City, whether it's outside or inside. Now, when they first started talking about control on smoking, what did they say? We don't want to take away smokers' rights. We don't want to take away smokers' rights. What happened, Ken?
And eventually there was no smoking anywhere close to public areas where people meet together. So, again, that's that gentle chipping away of our rights. And, again, the Second Amendment is very, very critical.
Without a Second Amendment, there is no freedom in the United States of America. It's the last bastion. If you think the vote is, you're funny. It may be the vote in theory, but it's the guns in practice. And when you disarm Americans, you might as well just tear up the Constitution.
That's right. And, in our history...
Well, let's hit this in a moment.
We'll
this is the American Roundtable. I'm Al Spry.
And I'm Ken Mikesell.
Welcome back to the American Roundtable. I'm Al Spry.
And I'm Ken Mikesell.
Ken, I want to continue our conversation we were having about guns and the Second Amendment. Now, presidential orders can be filed, and they're good for as long as the president is in office. They can, however, be changed by another president.
That's right.
So I'm not ultimately concerned about this order for now. I just don't like the way it smells. I believe that there is an effort among certain folks in both parties, not just in the Democratic Party, but I believe in the Republican Party as well, to disarm Americans and to make them, of course, I guess you would refer to as just subjects of the state. Now, that's no longer America. That would be considered I would want to call it fascism. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, like fascism, communism. I mean, think about World War II. Uh, these people didn't have guns in Germany and France, and so we had to go in to protect them. And the same thing could be said in the Mideast today.
You know, if you take away gun rights, people will still get guns. They'll have to get them through the black market. All it does is take guns out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. As to folks who say, but what about all the murders? What about all these criminal acts that are being done? Okay, let's talk about that. But then we also have to talk about mental illness, which we don't like talking about in this country. We like to pretend that everyone is sane and that there's just an occasional crackpot who gets a hold of guns, and it's the gun's fault. It's never the person's fault, because the gun obviously shoots on its own. So that's the way we're looking now. Now, I understand, and I have a heart for any time there's any type of gun violence in America. I believe that guns need to be used responsibly. I believe you should do all in your power to try to not... It's very difficult in a free society, though. How do you keep guns out of the hands of mentally ill people if they don't look mentally ill and don't have a mental illness background? This is a problem. Even though we will continue to see these acts, I think what needs to be done more is education. We have a tendency to glorify gun use in this country, which is not really the right way to go. We have what we created as a gun culture. Guns are an important part of the Constitution, gun ownership, to keep at bay totalitarianism from encroaching on personal liberties. But at the same time, we can't keep glorifying guns and the use of guns with violent imagery that people see all the time. Guns being used to solve problems. This has to go.
Yeah, that's right. And, when we go back and think about the Wild West here, I mean, a lot of people carried guns on their hips. Now, I've been out recently in the last few weeks, and I'm seeing more and more bumps on the side of people. And so the first question comes to mind, well, they're probably carrying a weapon to protect themselves. I have a very good friend that is very, very wealthy, and she has to carry a gun with her and also has a bodyguard occasionally. My question, I guess, to President Obama would be, sir, do you want to give up the guns of the Secret Service men that will be protecting you after you're out of office? Because let's think about it. Many presidents have been assassinated by guns. Now, it wasn't the gun. It was a person behind the gun. It was either John Wilkes Booth with Abraham Lincoln or others. And so it's not the gun that kills people. It's people that kill people.
I think it's important, and I totally agree with you, I think it's important to revisit how we portray guns in the media and how we portray guns in video games and how we portray guns as in news stories. Guns are dangerous weapons. However, when used responsibly, they are used responsibly by hunters, they're used responsibly by people in personal protection. I just think you need to draw a line and stop the glorification of guns. At the same time, stop the vilification of guns. Guns are not good or bad. Guns are neutral. However, they can be used by people with good or bad intent. I'm Al Spry.
And I'm Ken Meixel.
We're so happy to have you join us on the American Roundtable on Tough TV, and we have more for you in just a moment. Welcome back to the American Roundtable. I'm Al Spry.
And I'm Ken Meixel.
So happy to have you here watching us on Tough TV. And we thank Tough TV for supporting this show. And we thank you for supporting this show. We try to give you what we call the Straight Talk Zone and the Politics is Unusual commentary.
That's right.
So let's talk about, this is disconcerting and troubling on many levels. There's a report out. Some 63% of people, which is almost 2/3 of Americans, can no longer deal with a $500 emergency. They do not have $500 in free cash to deal with something going wrong. Most households now are struggling to cope with financial surprises. The report states that even though Americans are starting 2016 with more job security, most are still theoretically only one paycheck from the street. They have no emergency savings for things such as a $1,000 emergency room visit or a $500 car repair. This is a survey released of 1,000 adults by personal finance website bankrate.com, up slightly from 62% last year. Faced with an emergency, they say they would raise money by reducing expenses elsewhere, reducing spending, borrowing from family and or friends, or using credit cards to bridge the gap. This lack of emergency savings, of course, is an issue for millions of Americans.
That's right. And of course, that's been the case for many, many years. But I think in today's economy, as we look around us here, and we're coming from Central Florida where tourism is such a big part of our economy here, people like to be entertained. I mean, they always seem to have money for entertainment, whether it's going to an amusement park or going to watch Star Wars. When you think about Star Wars, the millions of dollars that it brought in one weekend. Now, why do we have to be entertained by, and some would call some of this violence? We talked in the last segment about violence, gun violence. Now think about it. Star Wars, when you go there and watch the movie, there's lots of guns. And there's lots of shooting and killing. And for our children, particularly, I've got a grandson that got the new Star Wars game. And so you start shooting people, and then comes the bullet towards you, and then it shows up on the screen, you are dead. Now, think about that for just a moment, what it does to a second or third grader. You know, life itself, and we hear lots today about white lives matter, black lives matter, all lives matter. Life itself is so critically important. And so when we think about violence that's on TV, movies, it's there, and they're going to see it. And that's why you have to sit down and talk with your children about what they're watching on TV. More and more people are going away from so many channels to watching things on Netflix and Hulu that are less violent in most cases.
Yes, I believe that we have to get a handle on the violence, and we have to get a handle on the negative imagery that folks and children are watching. This is a very disturbing report for various reasons. I think the question asked is, why aren't Americans saving? Right now, Americans are making less money than they ever have. My generation is the first generation to make less money than my parents' generation did in the history of the United States. This tells me something is very wrong. Number one, it tells me trickle-down economics didn't work.
Didn't work.
Reagan, as well-intentioned as I believe the gentleman was, I believe he was misled by his economic advisors to come up with this trickle-down theory where it says if you give the rich more, they'll create more jobs and all boats will rise. Instead, what happens is, because capitalism is based on greed, and greed is good according to Gordon Gekko from the movie Wall Street, all they do is make more money and hoard it. They don't put it back in the economy. They send it offshore. So how is everyone supposed to rise when the money isn't going back and it's not trickling down? This is the American Roundtable. I'm Al Spry.
And I'm Ken Meixel.
So happy to be here on Tough TV. More in just a moment. Welcome back to the American Roundtable on Tough TV. I'm Al Spry.
And I'm Ken Meixel.
We are talking about the economy and, of course, the gun culture and violence culture in America on today's show. I'd like to talk more about the economy because that's on everyone's mind. I believe that without a good economy, what are we going to do? We're all going to have to go on the government dole. And, of course, that gives the government more power, which we do not want in our democracy republic that we have here in the United States. So I want to briefly tell folks that the way to get more money in this country, I believe, is to start your own business. I don't believe you'll be able to have upward mobility working for other people. Unless you have a really, really good job working for the government pays well. Private industry doesn't pay as well anymore. Private industry is going through tremendous changes in the way it does business. It is always about the bottom line in business. That's not a critique, that's just the way it is. If you wish to become part of the American dream, I suggest that you start a business. I believe that that is the road to financial prosperity still to this day in this country, and I believe that our current situation should be a catalyst to people to not just sit there and take it as an employee, but if they have a dream, if they have a creative spark, if they have something that gets them going, I think they need to take the bull by the horns, show courage, and make that money.
That's right, and think out of the box. I've been a big proponent of that for many, many, many years. Don't do everything that your parents did or your grandparents did. And particularly for those in sunny areas, I mean, you stop and think about how much of our paycheck we spend on gasoline, oil, utilities, and so we have in many areas of the country, like Florida, Arizona, lots of sun. Well, can solar take it over? Well, maybe not all of it, but what about part of that? Will there be a day, Al, that we have solar cars running around?
I believe that the future is unlimited. I don't believe that we should just settle for the status quo. Trust me, I agree with you. I started with the status quo. I went to college. I was told to do certain things and I'd be making a lot of money. Well, that never happened. I was told to go work for the private sector. I'd make a lot of money. Never really happened. It's only when I start now on my own doing various projects like this wonderful show that you start to see the dreams come true. And so I say, don't give up on the dream. Change the dream. Like you said, think outside the box. I think it's very important to do so, and I think it means the difference between the failure of America and the success of America as a country. I'm Al Spry. This is the American Roundtable on Tough TV.
And I'm Ken Meixel. Thank you for joining us today.
We'll be right back with some final thoughts. Hi, this is Al Spry. Welcome back to the American Roundtable on Tough TV.
And I'm Ken Meixel, and we've been having a great time today talking about the economy.
Yes, we have, and now we're going to talk about North Korea.
Yes.
Because North Korea has been silent for a while, and whenever that happens, you know that they have to always do something to make the press to feel relevant, because they're totally irrelevant as far as the world stage goes, except for the fact that they have dangerous nuclear weaponry that they can use at the drop of a hat. I don't think they will use it because they are still under the thumb and beholden to China. China is, of course, the great, shall we say, the cell that holds North Korea in check, I guess you could say.
That's right. But Al, you also look at China in the last few weeks. I mean, the stock market, how ours was affected by China. And so everything gets back to money. I mean, any way we look at it, money is the thing that we have to really look at. It
is, and it all comes down to money, obviously. This is a money-driven world. And so power comes from money, and so everybody's interested in the money. North Korea tested a miniaturized hydrogen nuclear bomb. It says, whether it was or not, they still basically detonated a bomb, which is against the protocols that have been signed over the years about nuclear testing. China's not happy with North Korea over this. But, you know, the North Koreans are destitute. If you look at a map from the sky at night of North Korea, the only lights on are in Pyongyang, in the capital. Everything else is pitch black because there's no electricity. People are starving. This is a Stalinist regime gone completely insane, and it's the last Stalinist regime in the world. And so all we can do is pray for the North Koreans and try to keep this insane regime in check until we can figure out something to do with them, because right now they are a thorn in the side of any progress of humankind in the world, and they are a dark place with a dark future. And so it's just something we have to keep an eye on, and we have to basically threaten and keep in check, along with the partners in Asia, because Asia doesn't want nuclear weapons going off.
That's right. And it's a time, if you read in the Bible, I mean, it talks about the days like at the end. Now, it's been said that for many, many years. It hasn't happened. But today, more than ever, I think we have to watch.
This is the American Roundtable. I'm Al Spry.
And I'm Ken Meixel.
Thank you, Tough TV. We'll see you next time.